MAVAKAGA.
All right, folks, welcome back to another deep dive with us. And today we're going to be taking a look at Smile 2.
Oh, yeah.
And specifically, something that I think a lot of people noticed, and this kind of came to our attention from a Reddit thread.
Okay.
Where somebody was asking about how exactly the curse is transmitted in Smile 2, because it seems like the filmmakers are maybe changing things up a little bit.
It's definitely a lot more subtle in the sequel.
Yeah. And I think that's part of what's so interesting about it.
Right.
Because it's not really explicitly stated, but there are clues there if you're paying attention.
Yeah.
For sure. So the specific example that this Reddit user brought up was the character of Lewis Fregoli.
Right.
And how he becomes infected with the curse.
Yeah.
Because if you remember, he doesn't actually witness the death of the first victim.
Right. And that's what's so interesting, because in the first film, it seemed like witnessing the death was the trigger.
Exactly. That's how we thought it worked. And so this Reddit user was like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
How did Lewis get the curse if he wasn't actually there?
If he didn't see it.
To see her die.
Yeah. How does that work?
Right. And it's not just that he doesn't see her die. It's that the way she dies doesn't really align with how the curse has worked in the past either.
Right. It's like they're intentionally playing with our expectations.
Yeah. It's like they're throwing us a curveball and they want us to figure out what's going on.
Exactly.
So in this Reddit thread, there were a bunch of different theories.
Oh, I bet.
That people were throwing around.
Okay.
Some people thought that maybe Lewis saw something off screen.
Oh, interesting.
That the audience didn't see.
Right, like a deleted scene almost.
Yeah, or just something that happened that we weren't privy to.
Right.
Other people thought that maybe the curse could be transmitted through some kind of indirect contact.
Oh, okay.
Like maybe Lewis touched something that the victim had touched.
Oh, that's a good point. Like a residual
or something like that.
energy or something.
But none of those theories really felt quite right.
Yeah, I can see why.
They didn't quite explain everything.
It seems like there's got to be more to it than that.
Exactly. And there is.
Okay.
There's a really key piece of information that Smile 2 introduces that changes everything.
Okay, now I'm really curious.
So are you ready for this?
I'm on the edge of my seat.
Okay, so it turns out that the key to understanding the curse in Smile 2 is that it's not just about witnessing a death.
Okay.
It's about witnessing a very specific kind of death.
Oh, what is that?
It has to be a murder.
Oh, wow.
And it has to be committed by someone who's already afflicted with the smile curse.
So it's like a double whammy.
Yeah, it's like this.
It's not enough to just see someone die. It has to be this act of violence.
Exactly. And it has to be perpetrated by someone who's already under the curse's influence.
That changes things.
It does. It changes everything.
Yeah.
And it explains how Lewis becomes infected. Even though he didn't actually see the first victim die.
Right, because he was there for something else.
Exactly.
Right.
He witnessed something else.
This is getting good.
That we're going to talk about right now.
All right, let's dive in. It's like this idea that evil needs to be actively spread.
Oh, wow.
It's not just something you stumble upon.
Okay.
It needs that transfer of negativity, that malicious intent to really take root in someone.
Yeah, that's a really chilling thought.
Yeah.
But how does this tie back to Lewis?
Okay, so remember that scene early in the film where Lewis and his colleague are called to the hospital to assess a patient?
Yeah.
That patient is actually the one who brings the curse into the story.
Okay.
And what's crucial here is that this patient actually murders 2 people.
Oh.
Right in front of Lewis.
I remember that scene.
Yeah.
It was really intense.
Yeah.
But I have to admit, I didn't really think much of Lewis being there at the time.
Right. It just seemed like setup.
It felt like a way to introduce the curse.
Yeah.
And show how quickly it can spread.
Exactly.
But it's actually so much more than that.
It's a brilliant example of how the filmmakers are playing with the audience. They're planting these seeds early on that don't fully make sense until later.
Wow.
So if we go back and rewatch that scene with Lewis and this patient, and we pay close attention to the camera angles and the editing, it becomes clear that Lewis is actually witnessing these murders.
Really?
Even though it's not explicitly shown on screen.
I'm going to have to rewatch that scene now.
Yeah.
So while the patient doesn't know that Lewis is watching, the way the scene is constructed makes it clear to the audience that Lewis is there for these murders.
That's the key.
Wow.
It's all about perspective.
Yeah. And some people in that Reddit thread actually picked up on this.
Oh, wow.
They pointed out specific shots that suggest that Lewis is observing everything.
That's impressive.
even though he's not directly involved in the action.
It's subtle, but it's there.
Right, and it makes you wonder if there are other things we're missing.
Yeah.
Like, could there be other people out there who have been exposed to the curse without even knowing it?
It's a chilling thought.
It is.
It really speaks to the insidious nature of trauma.
Okay.
How witnessing something horrific can leave these invisible scars, even if we don't consciously register what we've seen.
That adds a whole new layer of creepiness to the film.
Right, because it's not just about what we see and remember.
Yeah.
It's about what seeps into our subconscious without us even realizing it.
And that could be really terrifying.
Absolutely.
Okay, so to recap, Smile 2 introduces this new rule where the curse is transmitted through witnessing a murder committed by someone already under its influence.
Right.
And while the film doesn't explicitly show Lewis witnessing these murders, it's subtly implied through the camera work and editing, which makes his infection with the curse all the more chilling because it highlights how easily and unknowingly someone can become a victim.
It's a really clever way to build suspense and keep the audience guessing.
Yeah, it definitely makes you question everything you're seeing.
Right, and that's what makes Smile 2 so effective.
Yeah, it really makes you think about all those things that we might just kind of brush off in the moment.
Right.
Without really processing them.
Yeah.
And how they can come back to haunt us later.
It's like our subconscious is always watching, taking notes.
Even when we're not paying attention.
Exactly. And that's one of the things that makes Smile 2 so effective. It taps into that primal fear of the unknown.
Right.
The things that lurk just beneath the surface.
Yeah, and it's not just about jump scares and gore.
Right.
Although it definitely has those.
It does.
It's about something much deeper.
It's about trauma and how it can warp our perceptions, poison our relationships, and ultimately lead to destructive consequences.
It makes you think about how even the smallest details can have a huge impact on our lives.
Absolutely. And it's up to us to pay attention, to be aware of the things that are happening around us, even the things that we don't want to see.
Because sometimes the things that we try to ignore are the things that end up hurting us the most.
Exactly. It's a powerful message.
It is.
And one that I think resonates with a lot of people.
Yeah, definitely.
Smile 2 is a film that stays with you long after you've seen it.
I agree, and it's given me a whole new appreciation for the horror genre.
Oh, yeah.
Because it shows that horror can be more than just cheap thrills.
Right.
It can be a way to explore really complex and important themes.
Exactly.
Well, this deep dive has been really eye-opening.
Yeah, it's been great.
And I know I'm not going to look at Smiles the same way again.
I know what you mean.
What are your thoughts about Smile 2? Better than the first tour? Let us know in the comment section below. Also, if you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to the channel.